Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're doing well. Just a few a few thoughts regarding Terence Crawford. A few afterthoughts, random thoughts. Um, Obviously, it was an astonishing performance against Spence, and I have to say, when I did my little poll on the channel on the community page, um, the overwhelming majority of people picked uh, Crawford to win. And I think it was off the cuff. What was it, like 30 something percent picked the stoppage? So big up all you guys and girls who picked the stoppage, because I certainly didn't. I thought Crawford would win on points, and I thought it would be a very close fight, which of course it wasn't. It didn't even approach being a close fight. It was an extremely one-sided beatdown. But it's interesting to sort of compare the two great performances. I mean, real, majestic maestro performances by NAOYA INOUE earlier in the week, and now Terence Crawford. And of course, it begs the question, the great hypothetical: who is pound for pound the best fighter? Is it Crawford? Is it Inoue? Some people might say Usyk. I would have those as my top three pound for pound people. The order I would put them in, and this is just my personal taste perhaps, would be Crawford first, NAOYA INOUE second, and Usyk third. Now, this is a debate that will rage on. There is no ultimate answer. It's purely what style do you like? What are you looking at? What are you looking for? I think Crawford is a complete fighter with such an amazing variety of punches and such an incredibly high ring IQ. So varied and so imaginative in the way he goes about his work, almost as if he can read the opponent before they've even thought about what they're going to do. And I don't base that just on the Spence performance, although I do think that's probably the best performance of his career, the most complete performance, against a guy who was extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. Look, if you picked Crawford to beat Spence by knockout, big up you. But there aren't many people beforehand. In fact, I don't think I heard one who said, oh yeah, Crawford will dominate him. So I don't want to hear anyone saying, well, Spence was overrated or Spence was made for him, or, make those statements before the fight. There may be one or two people who believe that. There may be. I mean, I ain't got a problem with that. But now you hear people sort of pouring scorn on Spence, saying he was overrated and he's mechanical, he's one-dimensional and everything. Blah, blah. Well, if that's the case, why haven't other people beaten him? Because he's fought some good men. I mean, admittedly, a couple of the very good fighters were small guys moving up. And someone said, oh, Spence, there was an element of the weight bully about him. Well, okay, but I didn't see that against Ugas, who is another very, very big welterweight. And Spence, don't forget, had the guts to go over to Britain and come through some sticky patches against Kell Brook and take Kell Brook's belt in his backyard. That was in Sheffield. So Spence was an elite fighter. He is what I would call an A-grade fighter. Crawford, because of his variety, because he's almost like a walking encyclopedia of punches, of techniques, of tactics, coupled with this incredible mental strength, absolutely incredible. The guy's cold-blooded, massive, big event. He's been waiting 5 years with the PBC freezing him out and all this sort of stuff. He gets in that ring in front of, the world, and is able to maintain his poise, his composure, and go about his business in a totally clinical manner. Mentally, psychologically, that is a very, very special human being who, if his life had panned out differently, could probably have done a number of different things in life and would have done them just as brilliantly. Because, all right, boxing's his talent. But if you have that mentality in life, you're going to get somewhere no matter what you decide to do. Hard work, dedication, that's almost become a cliche. but it should be a given with any fighter. And I'm sure Errol Spence has that as well, despite the fact that he does like a little drink occasionally, and he's had the car crashes. Did the weight play a factor? I'm tempted to say a little bit. I don't think it was the main factor, but there's no denying that Spence did look very drawn at 147. And even though Crawford said, well, I was a little bit tight at the weight, I prefer to be at 154. I think 154, Spence needs to move up. If he's going to have a rematch with Crawford, which, to be honest with you, I would not advise, but he's got to do it 154. Otherwise, it will be. I mean, I think Crawford will beat Spence at 154, but I at least give Spence more of a chance of. Well, he'll have more energy, put it that way. And don't forget, Bud came up from lightweight, although he was extremely tight at the lightweight limit, which is why he didn't score. I mean, he took his belt off Ricky Burns on a decision. How great does that look for Ricky Burns? You know, okay, he lost his title, but he lost it on points to a man who is clearly a great fighter and a two-weight undisputed champion. Now, in comparison to NAOYA Inoue, as you know, if you've seen previous videos, I've rated him for years. I thought he was absolutely magnificent against Stephen Fulton. And again, you get people saying, well, you know, Fulton was overrated. It's easy to be wise after the event. Make no mistake about it, NAOYA Inoue is a magnificent fighter, absolutely brilliant. But I do give Crawford the edge, pound for pound wise. What a shame these aren't the same weight, these guys. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that Krakatoa style eruption as those two collided? I do think Crawford edges it pound for pound for me because of he's just a complete fighter. I mean, if you want to be ultra picky, you can say that he does get hit occasionally. You know, his defence isn't, say, a Mayweather type of defence. But I mean, come on, I'm deliberately being almost facetiously pedantic here. I mean, I'm really reaching for stuff here. But yeah, he does get hit occasionally, you know. And it was noticeable that when Errol hit him on the few occasions where he did land, you know, the odd pot shot, flush, Crawford didn't even blink. And at the end of the fight, Crawford looked like he'd just been out for a stroll. And Errol obviously looked like he'd been hit by a truck. And from a very early on in that fight, Errol Spence was he was absolutely trying everything. He was giving everything. And yet you just felt Crawford had gears to go through. But getting back to the Crawford Inoue debate, I do make Crawford slightly better than Inoue. But my God, I mean, these are wafer thin differences. I mean, you know, it'll be interesting to see by the end of their careers. And Crawford is 35, nearly 36. I think he's 36 in September. Inoue's 30. So Inoue's career might go on for a little while after Crawford has bowed out. But it'll be interesting to see who has the more stellar career. I mean, they're both Hall of Famers without a shadow of a doubt. And don't forget, Inoue is probably going to fight Marlon Tapales, and I would make him a red-hot favourite to beat Tapales, and then he'll be undisputed in two divisions too. But so definitely with these two guys, I mean, we are privileged to be in an era where these two guys are active. And then let's not forget Usyk as well, undisputed at cruiserweight, went up, won 3 belts off Joshua, beat him twice, just to sort of make it clear, I'm the best, I'm better than you. Desperately wanted a Fury fight, and Fury ducked him, regardless of what the fanboys say. All the evidence points towards Fury ducking Usyk, not the other way around, making it impossible to negotiate. So Usyk in the end says, I've wasted enough time, I'm going to do something else now. I've got my mandatories. All right. It's not like Usyk threw the belt in the bin. Right, he didn't. Fury's done that in the past, by the way, when he retired and had his mental health issues, you know. So no criticism for Usyk at all. And you know what? He may put on a clinic against Dubois, and I know Dubois is expected to be beaten by Usyk, probably by stoppage. But he's a big, strong lump and he hits hard. And if Usyk toys with him, he'll be back in the mix for pound for pound. Pound for pound is just a bit of fun, really, isn't it? I mean, you're talking different weight. If you're a heavyweight, a welterweight, and a super bantamweight. So it's all just a little debate, a little bit of fun debate. It's not to be taken too seriously. But the bottom line is, we've got those three fighters who, we're privileged to watch them in an era. I'm a slightly older boxing fan, so I can remember Sugar Ray Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, Duran, and all them. Watching them, and you just knew you were watching greatness. You just knew it. These people are going to be lauded decades later, and sure enough they are. Well, I'm telling you now, Usyk, Inoue, and Crawford, maybe even to a lesser extent Spence and a few other people, they're going to be lauded in 20, 30, 40 years' time. And again, I repeat, Spence, I mean, it's like if you talk about the Four Kings, you're forgetting about, don't forget about Wilfred Benitez or Carlos Palomino. Great fighters. Pipino Cuevas was another one, terrific fighter, terrific welterweight. But they're kind of just a little, well, not so much Benitez, who was a 3-weight world champ. This is, I think, before the IBF came along. Yeah, he won his first title before the IBF, so there was only 2 belts, WBA, WBC. But Benitez himself was a magnificent fighter. His prime was a little bit, but he's the youngest person to ever win a world title. He won it at 17, beat Antonio Cervantes, who is himself a terrific, great fighter. Go and watch his videos, Cervantes. Watch Benitez. But these are sort of slightly below, your Hearns, Leonard, Hagler. But they're still wonderful fighters. And Spence and a few other fighters, they'll be remembered as well. So when we talk about boxing being under the cosh and, this debacle with the heavyweights and specifically Fury not wanting to fight Usyk, we shouldn't forget the good stuff. Accentuate the positive. Because the talent in boxing at the moment, it's there. Go watch it. If you love boxing, if you're not a fanboy, if you love boxing, regardless of who it is who's fighting, if you just love the sport and you love seeing great matchups at any level, appreciate these people now because they ain't going to be here forever. So yeah, those are my afterthoughts. Leave comments below. What do you think's next for Crawford, Spence? Who do you think's better out of Inoue and Spence? And don't forget, 35 years, nearly 36 now, Crawford. Usyk's in his mid-30s. A little bit younger, Inoue. But, what do you think? Just give me your opinions. Let me know what your further thoughts are. Thank you for your time, as always. It's always good to have your time watching the videos. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Always appreciate it. And like the video if you like it, because that helps us as well. Thanks a lot. Speak again soon. Bye for now.